welcome to The Quiet Corner. This is a knitting, hand spinning, rigid heddle weaving, and now natural dyeing podcast where I share about my love for all things fiber from my little corner of the world in Ottawa, Canada. My name is Vanessa. If you're a new viewer, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. So let's grab a cup of something comforting. Got some tea here with me, of course. And let's take a moment to slow down and stitch together. So, where to begin? I guess we could jump straight into what I'm wearing and finished objects. I just have to put one of my whips aside here so I can show you. So I am wearing my finished Felix cardigan. I think I cast it off, would have been like 3 or 4 days ago, and finished kind of, I did wash and block it, and just this morning was able to finish just putting on the buttons. That was kind of the final piece. Also, if you can hear, you might hear some little footsteps upstairs. If you hear like little pitter patters, those are little feet. Hopefully that's not going to bother you during this podcast. Anyhow, so yeah, this is my finished Felix. Really happy with how this turned out. As I had mentioned, it is a Barocco yarn that, and I don't have the tags with me anymore, but I did mention it on one of, I think, the first podcast that from my return, like a few podcasts ago now. It's a Barocco yarn that I honestly typically wouldn't like gravitate toward because it's not as much of it doesn't have as much of that rustic feel to it, but it's yarn that's in my stash from the past few years because I went through a whole process where I was having really bad allergies and trying to figure out if I was actually reacting to some of the wool that I was working with. And it did seem like some of the really rustic wools that I was working with, I was having an allergic reaction to, which was kind of the first time that that's ever happened to me. My theory is that it was such a rustic wool that had been minimally kind of processed, and well, I shouldn't say minimally. It was the Fiber Co. I'll show you actually. I have the sweater right here. The Fiber Co. Lore in their DK. It was this yarn that I did my no frills sweater in, and I was reacting to it every time I knit with it. I would get really itchy and kind of hot. But then what I decided to do was literally wash this sweater when it was like still on the needles, and all of the skeins that I hadn't knit with yet. I washed them all and then knit with the washed yarn, and I stopped reacting to it completely. So my theory is that there were some potentially like just pollens and allergens in the wool itself. I also have quite a bad dust allergy. So once I figured that out, I was like, okay, thank goodness I can still work with wool. It's not the wool itself. It's, I think, allergens and potentially even like pollens left over from the sheep rolling in the fields and stuff. So anyway, but I hadn't figured that out yet and had just thought maybe I'm really truly developing an allergy to wool, which is like absolutely worst, case scenario, every knitter's nightmare, I'm sure. But before I had figured that out, I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and kind of get a couple of other kinds of yarn that are much more like processed and like, as clean as they can get, straight from the store. And I was also kind of toying with the idea of getting something that had some acrylic in it, like this yarn, because we were also in the middle of the figuring out the whole thing with the silverfish eating all of our wool garments. And I just thought maybe if it had a bit of acrylic in it, they wouldn't go for it as much, because it really did seem like they were only attacking things that were pure wool, and particularly like the finest kinds of fibers like merinos and things with cashmere. They seem to just like find that and eat it. So anyway, I had purchased this yarn, not necessarily my go-to, but really happy with the outcomes regardless. And I was still committed to knitting with what I had purchased. And I'm really pleased with it. It doesn't have the same kind of structure that I love, like from this pure wool yarn that I worked with for the no frills pullover. It just has this like toothy structure to it that I love, and this doesn't have that. But it does have this very nice soft drape to it, which I know you can get with pure wool yarns as well. The open gauge also lends itself well to, I think, this very drapey fabric. So I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. I'll do up the buttons too, so you can hopefully get a glimpse of how it looks with the buttons. There we go. You can see the little lace detail here in the raglan, which I just love. That's like, I think, of course, the signature element of this pattern. It was such a pleasure to knit, just like it knit itself. So that's been really nice, especially having still the ongoing Maple Meadow cardigan on the needles that's growing much more slowly. So it's nice to have a quick knit. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to mention about this. Oh, there were a couple of challenges I had with it actually. Interestingly enough, when I picked up the stitches for the sleeve, had the same size needle that I knit the body with, which is for this pattern, I believe it's a US, is it US 10 or 11? Like they're quite large needles. But when I picked up and did I used the same needles but with magic loop for the sleeves, and my gauge changed instantly, which I suspect is because of the way I tension with magic loop. I'm used to knitting magic loop, using magic loop for socks, and I like a really tight gauge on my socks. So I'm wondering if that's kind of maybe what went on, was like, it's just my tension with magic loop. I'm used to knitting with a much tighter gauge. Could be something like that, I'm not sure. So anyhow, it didn't change the size of the sleeve. What I mean by that is, like, it didn't impact the fit of the sleeve on my arms too much, though I do kind of wish that they were a bit roomier in the end. Anyhow, I just thought I would block it out, and I was pretty confident that I could kind of open the gauge up just enough so that it would match with the rest of the sweater. If you looked at it really closely, you could probably tell that these stitches, especially before it was blocked, were tighter than these stitches, which were much more open, much more drapey. So that was one thing about this that kind of went funky on me. The other thing that I had like the hardest time with, this has never really happened to me before, but the button band. I think the pattern, it basically said to pick up 2 stitches for every 3 rows, and that in the end it doesn't really matter how many stitches you have, so long as there's an even amount and you've picked up 2 stitches for every 3 rows. I think I tried to do that twice, maybe even 3 times, and I could tell immediately, like 2 to 3 rows into the ribbing, that it was way too few stitches. So it was actually basically half of the stitches that I currently have, which meant that it was pulling up the side of the cardigan, like bunching it up to the center, and creating a bit of a balloon, and then like that bunching around the button band. So that was kind of a little point of frustration with the button band, and not necessarily that it was an issue with the pattern. However, I did end up like figuring out that based on the size of the button band that I had previously, the small button band, and the actual length of the other side of the cardigan without the button band, I was able to figure out that I needed like at least double the amount of stitches to get the right button band length. So then once I figured that out, I ripped it all back again, picked up double the amount of stitches. So it ended up not being what was in the pattern, like picking up for every 2 stitches for every 3 rows. It was more like picking up for every single row. Yeah, so once I did that, we were kind of smooth sailing, and yeah, really happy with it, and also really happy with this is my first time working with mohair held double, and also really happy with like just kind of the subtle marling of the Knitting for Olives nut brown mohair. I like how it softens the burnt orange colorway a bit, and yeah. The other thing I did was my typical Italian sewn bind off, just to get that invisible hem. And I also finished the cuffs about 2 or maybe even 3, I think it was about 2.5 inches before the pattern called for, and that's just based on personal preference. Whenever I have longer sleeved garments, I'm constantly like yanking on them and pulling them up, because I use my hands so much for, you know, knitting, weaving, dyeing, all the fiber things, and then also just mom life on top of that. You know, there's always messes to clean up and dishes to do, and it's just not practical for me to have long drapey sleeves. Like, this is much more practical length for me. So that's my first finished object to share with you. I have one other finished object, and this, I believe, during the last podcast, I think I had, so this is my second Sophie scarf in Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight. And I don't have the label with me, but I did mention the exact, like the colorway, I think, on the last podcast. And on the last podcast, I think I was only like here, like I just had the very beginning of it. So this is another one that just kind of flew off the needles. Really happy with it. And yeah, I'll see if I can give you a bit more of a close-up there. So I'll show you the first Sophie scarf that I did, which was also Jamieson and Smith. And I'm also really pleased with this one. It has a much denser gauge, because I actually held 2 strands of Jamieson and Smith jumper weight double with a slightly, it was at least a couple needle sizes up from what the pattern calls for, and it just gave me a denser gauge for this one, which makes it extra warm for the winter, like just a bit more practical. But this one, I really love how soft and kind of drapey this one is, and it's still going to be very warm. So yeah, really happy with that. And I might end up talking a bit more about this in the stash acquisitions plans, natural dye, the everything segment of this podcast. That's more toward the end. But the mini scarves kick that I'm on is part of a bigger vision and plan that I have to have a mostly hand knit, handmade, and thrifted wardrobe moving forward. We're definitely slowly getting there. It's a very slow process, especially because I basically had to start over in the last few years. Anyhow, but we can talk about kind of why I've got so many knitting and so many mini scarves on the needles. Yeah, so those are my finished objects. And I think we'll move on to works in progress next. Okay, so for works in progress. I currently just have 2 on the needles. I cast on another Sophie scarf. I hope you're not getting bored of that. Totally would understand if you are, because I know that so many other knitters who have knitting podcasts are just, going crazy with Sophie scarves and mini scarves. And I do hope to, my plan is definitely to get around to different patterns for mini scarves. I just love the simplicity of this Sophie scarf right now, and I'm also kind of funny in that, maybe I'm not funny in this way, maybe this is a thing for everybody, but if I find something that I like, for example, at a store, I find a nice shirt that I like, I want one in at least 4 colors, because if I found something that I really like, I want it in more colors so that I can wear that shirt basically more times throughout the week and more often, and have it work with other things in my wardrobe too. So I'm casting on a lot of mini scarves. This one is, again, Jamieson and Smith Shetland 2-ply jumper weight. I have a bunch of Jamieson and Smith left over from some previous projects, and also projects that I had planned that didn't work out. I had to rip back and decided not to do them. And so I have a bunch of this in just 2 to 4 ball quantities. And if you have a couple of these balls, it's the exact amount you need for, almost the exact amount you need for the longer version of the Sophie scarf. So part of my plan for knitting through my stash, and you might know if you followed my channel years ago that I like to keep a really minimal and really intentional stash. I don't like to, though it can be tempting for me for sure, I don't like to let my stash kind of balloon and not have plans for everything in it. And I also like to use as much of what I have first before I go out and buy more things and, add to the stash. So part of my plan lately is I have so much of this Jamieson and Smith that I didn't really have a new plan for up until this past, it's been 6 months since I've been knitting the Sophie scarves, probably. And now I've just found that this is the perfect way to kind of use those. And so I cast on another one in the stone colorway. It's 202 stone. So just this soft cream color. And let's see if I can give you a bit of a close-up there. And I am again knitting these on my Chiagu US 4 needles. These are my interchangeables, and that's the same, it's giving me it's the same gauge as the purple Sophie, which I really do love, and it's also what the pattern calls for. The only thing I have changed up for this one is I am doing the increases and decreases every 12th row instead of every 8th row. The pattern calls for every 8th, and I'm doing every 12th, and the reason for that is I have slightly less of this yarn, and so I knew that I wasn't going to have quite enough to get the length that the long Sophie scarf calls for, whilst also increasing at the same rate and getting the same width that the Sophie scarf pattern calls for. So I'm trying something out because I still really like the longer length version to do the double wrap and the little tie in the front. That's my favorite way to wear it, I think. So I'm just increasing less frequently, essentially, to get a thinner but longer Sophie scarf. And I think it's working out pretty well so far. So I'll just move my little progress keeper up so that we can see on the next podcast, if I don't finish it before then, again, the progress I've made. It's entirely possible that I could finish it because I don't have anything else on the needles, and probably won't for the next week or so. We'll get into why that is. So this is kind of my mindless and travel knitting project, which is the type of project that I knit through the fastest, for sure. So the other work in progress, the only other work in progress currently on my needles is the Maple Meadow. Not a whole lot to show you. Since last time, but this marker right here is where I was on the last podcast. So I've maybe got like 3 inches or so of progress. And there's partly I've been extra slow with this because I actually I made a mistake quite a few rows back now. I don't know that you'll be able to tell. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, it would have been on the pointelle pattern right here. There's a yarn over right here. On that row, this row exactly, I had continued on knitting and realized when I looked back on it that I missed the eyelet, the yarn overs on that row. And so I had to decide, okay, am I gonna rip back and try to pick up stitches on a like all over lace and cable cardigan, or is there a way that I could potentially drop down, like ladder down, and fix this mistake? I did a bit of research. I did figure out that there is a way to ladder down and add a yarn over several rows down without ripping back. It's a little extra tricky though when all of the other stitches in your pattern have different things going on with them as well. You know, purl stitches, other yarn overs, cables, like, so, well, actually in this case I didn't have to worry about the cable, but the point is there's other things going on in the pattern, so when you ladder down, it's not quite the same as just picking up for a knit stitch. You have to think, oh, were stitches decreased here in addition to the yarn over? And can I do that while I ladder down into the yarn over? Anyhow, I don't know if it actually saved me any time versus like actually ripping back, but I did figure out how to ladder down, create a yarn over, and basically do a fake slip knit, which comes after the yarn over, and then pick up the rest of the regular knit stitches on top and build that back up. And then I had to like continue knitting in pattern and then ladder down again for every column. So there's columns like this all around the sweater. I had to knit around, ladder down, add the yarn over, you know, go back up, pick up the stitches. So it did take some time, but I think I figured it out, and well, I did figure it out. However, it's not quite like, it's not the exact same as a yarn over that you know, did properly. It's a little bit tighter. So I just find it doesn't show up quite as well on those pointels. Is that what you call them? But it worked enough. So that's what I did. And I did lose some time figuring that out and fixing the mistake. And yeah, what else can I say? I think the only other thing I'm finding with this is that because it's so slow and it's not like TV knitting, I'm starting to get to that point with it where I have less like drive to knit on it. But one thing that has helped this past week is I put this little row counter where I started at the beginning of this week. And then my goal is to get 8 rows done at least every week, because that gives me a couple of inches of growth every week. So this is kind of helping like to motivate me to just like, you know, get my rows in, and then I can knit on other things. And that way, I think I kind of calculated it, and that way I should be finished with the body in the next month or so. Yeah, so that would be my little tip of the day if you're struggling with motivation on any projects, is if you're like me, one thing that works is to kind of like see progress and have a little goal, and also break it down into smaller tasks. So that's how I'm making slow but steady progress on the Maple Meadow. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to take this off. It's yeah, it's a cool day, but the funny thing is that in our house, we are very fortunate to have AC, air conditioning, and the summers do get really hot and humid here. Like the winters are really cold, and then the summers are really hot and humid. At least for me, by my standard, it's quite hot. And so I'm very I feel very blessed to have air conditioning. With our older home, in order to get the AC to reach the upper floors of the house, it kind of, we have to blast it down here, and it just results in this main floor being, on the really hot summer days, actually really cool inside. So I find that it's kind of nice because I can still wear all of my hand knits in the summer. Yeah, so anyhow, the reason I share that is on a day like today where it's actually cooler outside, like maybe 16, 17 degrees Celsius right now, and a rainier day, the house is actually warmer. I don't need as many layers as on the really hot summer days when it's like much cooler inside. So anyhow, I'm getting too warm for the Felix cardigan right now. So I think next we can talk about, yeah, we did works in progress. Next up is the kind of all the other fiber things and stash acquisitions and plans. Or maybe we could break it up and do like anything related to spinning, weaving, which I used to do that, spinning, weaving, and now natural dyeing. Maybe all of that could be in this next segment first, and then we could do stash acquisitions plans. Let me know if that makes sense to you. So let's do, yeah, spinning, weaving, natural dyeing. Nothing yet for weaving. I do have one thing I can share with you spinning wise. So I haven't been spinning and weaving much at all lately. I've been much more focused on knitting and yeah, just really working on my garment wardrobe plans. But I did want to have a spinning project on the wheel. Because I have done so little of it the past 5 years, I really wanted to just get something on the wheel and just do a very non-technical spin, like just for enjoyment, nothing fancy, just to kind of get back into that rhythm of spinning, and make sure that I don't, like completely lose that skill because I'm not using it. So this would have been, this isn't a new acquisition, something I picked up 4 or 5 months ago now, and only recently kind of got it on the wheel. But I just picked up some from my favorite local yarn store. They have, you can purchase spinning fiber by the gram, like you can weigh it and buy it that way. They also have braids and things like that. But yeah, I just picked up some of this merino. I think it's the Ashford merino, and because I just wanted something that was going to be like, it's like butter to spin with, really, and just really easy and kind of a mindless spin to try to get back into the rhythm of it. So it's not exactly what I anticipated, because I did purchase it online, and then, yeah, so when I picked it up, I saw the color. It was in my mind, or at least online, it looked a lot more like a much more muted kind of burnt orange, but I think it looks a bit more like Halloween. So, and when it's spinning up, it's not really blending with the brown like I thought it would. It's like, this is this is obnoxious for me. But I'm just gonna do it anyway. It's supposed to be for fun, and I also have we have 2 boys, and our 5-year-old has really gotten into fiber arts this past year, which has just been like, yeah, I don't even have words. It's such a joy to see him enjoying, something that I love. Like he's knitting with needles. We got him a small tapestry loom. And I'll have to show you some of his projects eventually. And also a, what's it called? The little round knitting looms. I think it's called a knitting loom. So he's knitting hats, he's weaving, he's knitting a scarf. Like, it's such a joy. So anyway, I just thought, even if I don't end up liking this yarn, he loves colors, like as bright as they can get, every color of the rainbow. So worst case scenario, I would spin this up for him. My original plan was to do a fractal, so spin a single with this lighter tan. There's also some cream and some brown blended in there. So my original plan was to spin this up as a single and then spin this up as a single and ply them together to get a fractal, because I love the look of a fractal. So I'm going to do a little bit of sampling to see if I like that look for me. And if I don't, what I might end up doing is just spinning this up, 2 singles and plying it together. Our oldest Theo, I think, would love to knit with, he loves orange, so I don't think I could go wrong with giving him some of my hand spun. Or I could do that and knit something for him with it, which I think he would also love. So that's one option. And then what I would maybe do is just spin this up and ply it for a smaller project for myself, because I really love these colors and the blend. Yeah, so that is just newly on the wheel. I didn't want to take the bobbin off because I just got everything kind of set up with the tension and everything on my wheel, which I hadn't used in a long time, so it needed a little spa day and had a lot of tension issues. But once I'm further along with these spinning projects, I will definitely share on the podcast. And then I think once these projects are done, spinning wise, one thing I'm strongly considering is getting a sock blend for spinning and then spinning for socks, which is something I haven't done in ages, but I always loved to spin really thin in the past. I think I need a warm-up that's very non-technical, where I don't have to worry very much about consistency in spinning those like close to thread weight singles. And I don't feel like I'm ready to jump back into that right now. So yeah, those are my plans for this fiber, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. Okay, so next up, I wanted to share with you what I've been doing in the natural dye world. I have been up to natural dyeing shenanigans. I've really gotten myself into something, I think. And definitely enjoying it a ton, but also realizing like how much thought and research and planning has gone into just like figuring out my setup for natural dyeing and making sure I have all the supplies, let alone learning how to actually do it. And then because I also really had my mind set on coming up with a more hands-off way to dye yarn. Again, because I don't have a lot of time, and I don't, like, I'm really excited about the process of dyeing, but I don't want to like be hovering over a pot for hours every few days just to dye yarn. So I was looking for like a slow cooker or a slow cooker with precision temperature, and they do exist, but I couldn't find one secondhand, and I didn't want to invest in like a brand new one for a new hobby that I don't even know yet, or at least at the time didn't know if I was going to enjoy. So anyhow, all of that said, I ended up creating, I don't know if this has been done yet before. You can tell me if you've ever heard of this before, but I basically created a massive sous vide basin from I got a stainless steel kitty litter box or bin. And I had one like sous vide wand. I think it's an Instapot sous vide. And picked up another one secondhand for like $30. And I am basically creating a sous vide, a really large sous vide container, which I put my dye pot into. And in the dye pot is, my mordanting solution or my dye bath, and the actual yarn is in that pot. So that way, because sous vide has really accurate precision temperature, and it's an extremely slow and gentle way to heat up water in your actual pot, I thought this could be the perfect way to do this. There are still some kinks I'm working out with the process for sure. And I can talk more about that on another podcast, or even I'm hoping to maybe eventually do like a separate vlog or episode just about this process, especially if it is yielding good results over time. But anyhow, the nice thing about it is that I really don't have to worry about boiling my yarn and felting it. I can leave the system set up outside for an hour at least before I check on, like, do a quick check-in, and I can safely leave it for many hours, but I do like to check on it every hour just to make sure things are at the right temperature and going well. So anyhow, got that whole system set up and finally got around to dyeing up some yarn this past few weeks, and I think it's been taking me a lot longer than it will eventually, but that's just because I'm learning, and it's a whole new world basically of things to learn and consider. But I do have a couple of finished yarns. Well, I shouldn't say they're not finished. They're at least semi-finished, and I can explain that. But I'll show you first this one, which is closest to being finished. This is the Briggs & Little soft spun in the worsted weight that I showed you on the last episode. And this has been dyed with walnut husk powder. It's still, the final step is technically right now it's curing. So after you've dyed it, you've scoured it, mordanted, and then dyed it. the best thing to do is to leave it for 1 to 2 weeks to let the dye bind even further to the protein fiber in the wool, and that can help it have the color to have more longevity before you go and wash it again with soap. So it's at this point rinsed with lukewarm to cool water and then hung up to dry. And so I've got 4 skeins of this, and my plan is to very soon, if not today, because it's been at least a week of curing, give it its first proper soak, and then once it's dry, I'm planning to cast on another cardigan, because I'm on the cardigan kick. That's the kind of key thing that I've determined I need in my wardrobe right now, or kind of a key garment that would be really functional to have, and I really want to have hand knit options, and so that's kind of been a big focus for me, is cardigans. And so this is, I would say, almost exactly what I was hoping for, was like a more of a neutral cream to brown kind of walnut shade, not super dark, although I would love to do eventually like more of a chocolate brown hand-dyed sweaters quantity for a pullover or cardigan. But that also requires a lot more dye stuff in natural dyeing, and I'm still playing around with things to figure out how much dye stuff I need to get the colors that I want. And there are other aspects related to or parts of the process that can help to, get deeper or lighter shades as well. So anyway, it's like a whole experiment. But this is kind of like a finished object, I guess, in terms of just the natural dyeing of the yarn itself. So really super pleased with this, and hoping to cast that on within the next couple of weeks, like once I've washed it and it's dry. And I'm leaning toward doing a garter stitch cardigan with this. That's at least my plan for the time being. We'll see what happens with that plan. And then the last thing I'll talk about for this segment of the podcast is this other natural dye project, which is still very much in the works. So it still has a zip tie on it, because I'm still in the process of dyeing it. It's been through a couple of different stages, and I'll kind of explain what I've done so far. So what I've done with this skein so far, kind of talk about the process and I think where it's headed. Because I had quite a bit of dye left in the dye pot after dyeing the walnut skein, I decided to dye 8 skeins with the walnut. So this one also, there's the first layer, I guess, in walnut, and then I've over dyed it with weld at about a medium strength to get this kind of, it's like a murky yellow right now. So I have a sweater's quantity of this in the works, and the next step that I want to try is doing a quick iron mordant or iron solution dye bath, or just a dip. I'm not quite sure. Like a dip is like you can quickly dip in an iron solution your yarn after you've naturally dyed it to see how it will shift the color. And the benefit of doing like a quicker dip is A, it's not that much time, and B, iron solution is quite hard on protein fibers like wool if you leave the wool in an iron solution for too long. So a dip after you've dyed your yarn can actually, the other benefit is that it isn't as hard on your yarn. So, and again, still very new to this and learning so much. So don't, quote me on anything, but so far this is where it's at. The next step I'm wanting to try is an iron dip afterwards to see if I can get it to modify to more of an olive green or a kind of murky green. And from what I've seen in my research, that's something you can do quite easily with weld, which gives you these like, it can give you very bright yellows. This is a more toned down kind of murky yellow because it's also, I've over dyed the walnut with the weld, so it's not as vibrant a yellow, which is what I was hoping for. So far things are going well. But yeah, the next step is to figure out the iron dip, which is another process that is in the works. I have to create the actual solution, which you can buy. I think it's called iron acetate. You can buy it from many different suppliers have it. And Maiwa, where I bought the natural dyes, also provides it. So I might go the route of purchasing the iron acetate to create the solution. But I am also experimenting with creating it myself, which you can do with vinegar and basically like a handful of old rusty nails, or something that's old and rusty. So I might try to create that solution first. The challenge is that it takes a couple of weeks. So I have one experiment in a jar, and it would take a week or two to kind of see if it's actually working or not. But I suspect that I don't have enough rusty bits in the jar to make the strength of solution that I might need. So we'll see. That's to be determined. So that's the next thing I have to figure out before I can finish this yarn, and then let it cure, and then wash it, and then we'll see what we get. But I do have a sweater's quantity of that, so it would be either a sweater or a cardigan in future, and I'm super excited about that. And then I also have the sock yarn from Briggs & Little that I showed you, or I should say sock weight yarn. It's the singles. Those are currently mordanting, and then my plan is to have like just go kind of wild, go rogue with dyeing and over dyeing with different dye baths to see if I can play around and get some variegated skeins. I've broken them up into mini skeins. So I have two 60-gram skeins of the white and then two 60-gram skeins of the gray that I showed you on the last episode. And my plan is to dye each of them up differently, but in a way that would work well together. So at least two of them would work well together for a pair of socks with like contrasting heels, toes, cuffs, and then more of a variegated skein for the main part of the socks. And I might do, current plan is to do like a couple of sets like that. And I thought it would be just a good way to play around with color, because they're smaller skeins. There's not as much at risk if something, I end up with something crazy that I don't like. It's not like it's a sweater's quantity of it, So it's I think a good way to experiment with color is just to experiment on smaller skeins and for something like socks. So that's kind of the plan right now. I'm just gonna be playing around with it. And it's quite a long, slow process, which I love with natural dye. You can play around with it, but it's not like, throwing a bunch of, color into a pot and getting a multicolored variegated skein in the end, or tray, like you would with acid dyes. It's many different dye pots and layers and dipping and waiting and kind of planning, and it's like a slow creative process, and I think that's actually what I really like about it. And even down to the beginning stages of like foraging for your dye stuffs, really enjoying learning about that and that whole process as well, and just excited about that too. I've done quite a bit more on the foraging front recently, just going for walks and learning about the different like tree species, is that the right word, in my neighborhood, and identifying them, and I'm just having so much fun with that. And it's like a slow process, but a really enjoyable one for me. And I'm actually also just finding that it's a beautiful way to feel more connected to the land and the earth and the nature that's all around me. I live in a very urban setting in Ottawa, and I actually struggle with that. I find it really hard because I think I am a country girl at heart, but this is kind of where life and career has us for the time being, and I think I've had to really like grapple with the fact that I'm like a country girl in the city, and that's honestly been kind of hard for me for many years. But I think what I'm finding, and I'm really thankful for with this whole new natural dye journey, is that it's giving me a reason to get really excited and kind of be on basically what feels like a little treasure hunt every day when I'm out for my daily walks, because I'm looking for something that excites me, and then when I find it, and I know the potential that it has. Like I found this past week quite a few oak trees in my vicinity, and acorns they're quite high in tannin and can provide a pretty good color fast and light fast dye from what I've read. Not quite on the same level as walnut, though I have found walnut trees as well. And anyway, it was just like such a funny thing because I've walked this neighborhood and the neighborhoods around our neighborhood for years now. We've lived in this area for at least 10 years. And I've never kind of given any thought to what kinds of trees are around us. And I've certainly never had like a deep appreciation for them the way that I do now. So I'm just finding that that's like a really neat part of this process, is that like not only is it about dyeing yarn, which is part of a hobby that I absolutely love, but there's this whole part of the process with natural dyeing that kind of gives me this like deeper connection and gratitude to and for my surroundings. Even though I'm in the city, it's like, oh, I can like have this deep appreciation for the nature that's around me and these oak trees in our neighborhood that are, I think some of them must be dozens, if not 100 years old. Like some of them are really big, beautiful oak trees. And so I'm on a tangent now, but basically it's been a gift to me to kind of have this new purpose in going for a walk every day and noticing what's around me and being thankful for it. And I feel like that's kind of helping me, helping the country girl in me accept that I live in the city, but also be so thankful for the nature that does exist in the city. It's not the same as having like these wide open spaces and fields and ocean, which I miss dearly from having grown up in Prince Edward Island. I have been homesick for the land that I grew up on in Prince Edward Island for so long, and that's definitely a part of why I struggle with living in the city. But yeah, just really thankful that there's this new hobby and interest that's kind of bringing me back to a place of like feeling more connected with the land and appreciating and being grateful for what it has to offer. And yeah, knowing a little bit about the science and the benefit behind gratitude, it is actually something that can like rewire your brain and give you more joy even in the midst of circumstances that maybe you struggle with. And I think that's something so beautiful and worth trying and pursuing, is to have a daily kind of gratitude practice. And so foraging has become part of that, and natural dyeing has become part of that. And I just thought that would be something, I've gone on a tangent, but also maybe that's something helpful to share about what this process has been like and what it's giving back to me. So yeah. So I think the last thing that I wanted to just chat about, which I've alluded to several times now as part of the stash acquisitions plans segment of the podcast, is just to talk a little bit about my vision moving forward for a handmade and mostly handmade and thrifted wardrobe, which is really a big part of my goal, or it is my goal, and a big part of why I'm doing things in a certain way, which you've maybe noticed, like I'm on a cardigan kick and I'm on a mini scarf kick, and there's a bit of a method to the madness. And basically my plan is I'm really trying to be intentional about the functionality of my wardrobe. It is going to take time to have a mostly handmade and mostly thrifted wardrobe. I've definitely made progress over the past couple of years, and it's taken a lot of thought and patience to do, like, to work toward that instead of just going on a shopping spree and kind of getting everything that I think will work in my wardrobe. But because I want it to be handmade, and I'm trying, definitely not perfect, but trying to move toward things like thrifting instead of just online shopping sprees, which I definitely have done, and I probably will. I'm not going to say that I won't be buying some things commercially, like definitely will have to do that to a degree. But I'm trying to replace, I guess, the practice of just buying a bunch of things that I do need and want sometimes, but replacing that practice with a slower process of planning and really thinking intentionally about what would actually work in my wardrobe, and trying to get away from the fast fashion movement and industry to the degree possible. I know that there's a lot of like idealism that can get thrown in with that too, which I definitely don't want to be bound to. Like, if I need something and it's currently only available to me commercially, then I will buy it commercially. But to the degree possible, I'm trying to move towards slow cloth and slow fashion. And anyhow, I basically have looked at the different pieces that are in my wardrobe, and I would love to do like a whole separate video on this eventually. But for example, like for fall, winter, early spring, I have a lot of like A-line skirts that are in a really warm, it's kind of like a faux, it's like a faux wool material almost. But they're like really thick A-line skirts that I have in like a cream color, there's burnt orange, there's a burgundy. I do have one in like a forest green kind of plaid. I can't remember if I'm missing anything, but I have like, I think 6 different A-line skirts that I can wear, like I can just layer with really easily. So I can wear tights and like longer socks and hand knit socks, and then I have like some base layers like this top, for example, goes well with those skirts. And then I have a lot of cardigans that I either have from a long time ago that I purchased or that I've thrifted more recently that are in colors that kind of complement the main color for my A-line skirts and the different base layers that I have. But what I am hoping to do is to have hand knit options that work with, you know, those existing pieces. And not that I will necessarily donate all of my older commercial cardigans, but I think as they wear out, I probably won't need them as much anymore, or I'll wear them for different purposes. But I would like kind of like my daily wardrobe to, I'm kind of trying to think of how it can come together and work really well for my hand knits, or vice versa, like knitting things that work well for the pieces that I already have. And those A-line skirts, actually, I did purchase specifically with the kind of vision in mind of these would go really well with hand knit cardigans. And then I have other pieces like, you know, jeans and leggings, which I also love to wear, that will go really well with cardigans and hand knit cardigans and pullovers as well. And then my thinking was just to have, like if I have, you know, 4 cardigans and 4 pullovers in some of those key, like similar colors, like the same color palette, then it will be really easy to mix and match everything. And then the mini scarves will just add that like practical pop of color around the neck. And if I have those, if I have, you know, at least 4 within that same color palette, those will be really easy to mix and match with the cardigan and skirt ensemble. So that's kind of like a little tidbit for my hand making plans and thrifting plans. And I'm just trying to think about what am I actually going to wear, and trying to make sure that it all works together so that because this has happened to me in the past where I don't actually end up wearing my hand knits because I didn't actually think about what they would go with well. And so I'm trying to change that so that I'm creating a handmade wardrobe that I'm actually gonna wear. Like that's the goal, I think. So yeah, so that's kind of why, that's the method behind the madness for all the mini scarves and all the cardigans. And I think coming up, there will be a lot more pullovers and colorwork sweaters, and also just like more kind of statement, fun, really creative pieces. I would love, for example, to have one colorwork sweater that kind of goes with each season, like a Birkin for the spring, and a Radari for the winter, and then I think I had some like other ideas. There's so many different like colorwork yokes that just look wonderful in fall colors. So I'm kind of thinking about things like that as well, like some seasonal items that are just like the cherry on top of all of the basics in your wardrobe. And I would also love to get into, once I kind of have some key pieces, I would love to have more base layers, hand knit, and things that work, you know, like hand knit tops that I can wear in the summer, but that also serve as a really good base layer for my fall and winter wardrobe. because to a degree, I also really love the idea of a more minimalist, even though in terms of what I hand knit, my goal isn't necessarily minimalism, but to have all the core pieces or like the basics be kind of like a capsule wardrobe that easily transition from different seasons and can be not necessarily always, but having a lot of pieces that transition you through different seasons. That's also kind of a goal for me, so that I don't end up needing a huge wardrobe. Like my goal is to have a more minimal wardrobe in a lot of ways, in terms of like the core pieces that go with my hand knits. And then I don't have a limit on the amount of hand knits, but I think once I get my wardrobe to my handmade wardrobe to a certain place, I also really want to, at that point, just have more space and time to knit for others in my life, and also to knit things that, take an exorbitant amount of time to knit, because I don't really need more pieces, but all over color work sweaters, for example, can take so much time. But once I've got like the core hand knit pieces in my wardrobe, that doesn't matter to me so much because I've already got the core pieces. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling again, but I just thought it would be helpful to share with you like a little bit of the intentionality and the vision behind it, because you'll probably see that there are themes in the ways that I'm knitting lately. It's kind of all going toward a goal and a plan, and so yeah, that's kind of my vision, and I will definitely keep you posted and probably be alluding back to this little segment in the future as I continue to plan and dream, which is a part of this whole craft that I really love, is the dreaming and the planning part. So yeah. Hey, well, I think that is probably enough chitty chatting for the day. This might be one of my longer episodes, I'm not sure, but I think I'll leave it there for now. And the last thing that I wanted to do was announce the pattern giveaway winner, from which I introduced on the last episode, and I went through and found, first I used a random number generator and came up with the winner based on who shared comments in the comment section, which, by the way, again, I just love it when I get to hear from some of you in the comments below. It really warms my heart, and it was so nice to also hear about different things that you are all working on as well. And the generator came up with the winner for this giveaway, which is a pattern. It's going to be a pattern giveaway. And the winner is Radhikam 2401. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. So I'll put the handle for the winner somewhere on the screen, and I will also you'll find my Instagram account in the comments down below, as well as the Gmail account for this channel. And if you are Radhikam 2401, please reach out to me either on Instagram in the, like you can private message me there, or send me an email and I'll be looking out for it. And then we can work out the logistics for the pattern giveaway. It'll be a pattern of your choosing. So really looking forward to connecting with you. Congratulations. And yeah, please reach out soon. I think that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again on the next podcast. Bye for now.